We need to talk about this. Talk about this.
All right, now, here's your host of the Georgio Says podcast. It's Georgio.
We need to talk about this.
All right. It is Wednesday, September 17th. And yes, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City did premiere. It was supersized. Okay. I watched it twice. We are obviously going to recap that. So I guess I'm going to just start to plug myself here before we jump into this recap because I will forget. But you can also shop the merch collection that just dropped as well. The Baby Gorgeous collection. And boy, oh boy, was I on the money with creating the collection because I didn't realize that we were going to come so hard for our Baby Gorgeous on episode 1. But at any rate, go to GeorgioTakanakis.com/shop right now and get yourself something nice. You deserve it. And who doesn't love some Baby Gorgeous merch? And I will say the t-shirts are really fucking cute. I don't know why I did that. I'm so used to having to talk on TikTok or Instagram, and you get flagged a lot if you cuss or you do certain things. Anyways, they're really fucking cute. And actually, I'm getting my order. I don't know why mine's taking so long. Probably because I didn't put in my sample order when I pushed it out. Anyways, mine are coming. I will be wearing them. But I have some other stuff in the shop as well. So go get yourself something nice. And yeah, stay tuned for the next collection of stuff to come because I am working on some other things and very excited for that. Anyways, before we jump into the Salt Lake City recap, I do want to address, because my God, I did not realize this was going to cause so much, I don't know what the word is. It's not anger, because there's a lot of passion, but it was a lot of pushback on my prediction for the season 19 Orange County reunion seating chart. Really, guys? You guys are roasting me over because I didn't put Tamra in the first seat, and why would I give Shannon the first seat? First of all, I will explain that. And to be fair to all of you, I did not give the reasons behind it. And I did think about it for a second, but I also was like, do I really need to talk about this? Sometimes it's pretty straightforward, and I hate sometimes making a video that doesn't really need to have an explanation, but I do see through the DMs and the comments and everything that, yes, I need to give you guys the context as to why I put that together that way. Didn't think I was going to have to, but here we are. So when we look at this chart, okay, the reason why I did not put Tamra in first chair is not because I don't think that she is like the OG that should always be first chair. If I'm looking at the seating chart in connection to what is actually happening within the season, which is what reunion chairs originally were for, you were sat in kind of the order of how your storyline played into that season, right? So obviously the people sitting directly next to Andy from left and right typically have the most going on, whether it's with each other or individually, okay? Now it is kind of turned into like where certain franchises, there's always the same person in the first seat over and over and over. And sometimes they're not really in the thick of everything that played out in the season, but because they're such an anchor to the show, it's kind of like, to me, it's politics. But nonetheless, the reason why I didn't put Tamra in first seat is because this season really isn't. Yes, it seems like it's about Tamra a lot because she's working through some stuff, but she doesn't really have a big part of the storyline. For me, she's trying to work through some of these patched friendships that have kind of gone stale, right? And I'm not going to go down that road either. I know everyone has their opinion on the matter when it comes to Tamra and her apology tour with the Jens and the Shannons and having to deal with the Gretchens. However, let's get back to the seating chart. When we look at it from the angle of what's happening, Katie did have the majority of the storyline for the first half of the season, okay? And just because she's not in the latter part as much does not mean the essence of her, absence is not going to linger. Plus, we know that Tamra films with her, and they did still film with Katie. She just didn't film with the group. Nonetheless, I do strongly feel she should have first chair based on that alone. Now, the reason why I put Shannon in the first chair next to Andy, again, not because Shannon so much had the biggest part of the storyline in the season, at least thus far, right? But the situation that kind of, in my opinion, kicked things off with this isolation of Katie and her behavior centered a lot around, Shannon being recorded at the gallery shoot. So this is where, in my opinion, this is where things start to kind of domino effect. So she did have a big, big blow up with Shannon here in the beginning because of the fact that, this recording of the audio of Shannon freaking out happened. So now Katie is playing off of Shannon because of the whole recording situation, right? And then you have Tamra sitting next to Katie because initially Tamra is the reason why these things kind of were brought up on camera in the first place. But it seems that Tamra is not, she didn't take it as far as the rest of the ladies, and she can see kind of what's happening. And she saw it early on. To be fair, she never unfollowed Katie the entire time, and she was always engaging with her stuff online. So she's not playing into the optics. She has been steadily friendly with Katie. Okay, stick with me. So we have Katie. Tamra's next to Katie. The reason why I did that is because, well, I'm not going to give Tamra the last fucking seat. That's ridiculous. But second seat means you were kind of the glue in essence. Like you kind of went in, you brought these things to light, and then when things started to crash, you didn't leave with the other ladies. You kind of stood by Katie as a peer. And I believe Shannon, not having moved on with Tamra, I still think there's still stuff there with them that's underlying, and we're seeing that start to peek its ugly little head with the drinking coming up again, like in this last episode where Gina is discussing it and Tamra's, bringing it up in Temecula. So there's that. And then next to Shannon, I have Emily, because again, Emily came in hot because she does not like Katie already based on what we saw go down at the reunion last season. So we kind of see that. So that's where my head's at with those four spots. Now, I don't feel Gina should be sitting next to Emily. It's given that they're very close. They don't need to be sitting next to each other, in my opinion. So I do have Gina next to Tamra because I do feel that makes the most sense. And then on the end next to Gina, I have Heather. And a lot of you guys came at me here about why is Heather in the last seat? Well, I don't know. You tell me, what is Heather really bringing into this current season? Because in my mind, she's performed in a very lazy manner. And if I'm going to be even more honest, I feel like she was the puppet master around a lot of this Katie stuff because she's still pissed about this paparazzi thing. But then I think she wasn't going to get her hands dirty because as much as we like to say what we want about her, she does see the optics and she saw what was happening as it was happening. And it just, for me, it's a little late though, because for me, if she wanted to play into like playing up this I care, she would have followed Katie out of Emily's house when Emily threw her out because no one followed her out. So again, I find her to be fickle. I find her not to be authentic. I don't feel like she's adding anything. And I think she throws rocks and hides her hands. So, and also you can't even joke with her. So yeah, last seat for sure. And then let's finish the other side of the chart. So then we have from Shannon, then we have Emily, then we have Jen, Jen Pendranti, which again makes sense because she is kind of played into the hate for Tamra. And then we have next to Jen, we have Gretchen, which you guys are like, Gretchen needs to be up higher. No, she fucking doesn't. She's a friend of. She will have the last seat no matter what. And I'll say this, if she was that, she was really bringing it, they would have given her a full-time status. They didn't. They left her as a friend of. So at the reunion, I expect her to be sitting at the end. That's just the way it should be in my mind. So that was my kind of, and James also kind of gave most of this layout as well. So it was kind of collaborative. I switched two people on opposite sides just because I felt like it made more sense to me. But again, guys, if you have this much strong opinion around a seating chart prediction, please, by all means, go create one and share it. Share with us what you think the seating chart should look like. I'd happily look at it. Tag me, send it to me. I don't care. I'm just sharing what I think based on what I've been watching, what would make sense. That could change closer to when we get to the end here. But again, Gretchen's not going to move up any higher than she is. And in my mind, Heather's not moving up any higher than she is. So there's that. Okay. Now I'm going to take a sip of coffee. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we are diving into Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, hot dogs and hearsay.
This episode of the Georgio Says podcast is brought to you by Golly Nutrition, the inventive, people-focused nutrition company making your daily supplements simple and delicious. Every Golly product is crafted with high-quality ingredients you can pronounce and flavors your taste buds will love. At the heart of Golly is purpose. Through the Golly for Good initiative, they support our planet and our communities, partnering with Vitamin Angels and Eden Reforestation Projects. Visit golly.com today and use the code The Georgio Says at checkout for a special discount just for our listeners. That's Golly Nutrition. Simple, delicious, and good for the world. Now back to the episode.
All right, my friends. So we've got to discuss Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Obviously, we got a supersized premiere episode. Thank you very much, Bravo. We've missed our girls. And immediately, I always, not that I forgot, but I always remember why I absolutely love this show outside of the content, is the editing. My God, the narrators and the editors that pull this whole thing together. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. This whole like campy way of opening it up, like it's like the opening to some like horror film where everyone looks like friends that are about to be like murdered in the woods, essentially. But it's just like Mary as the narrator, and she's basically like telling us that there's essentially going to be a witch hunt, which, hello, we know there's going to be something every season. And, you know, then we go from that to this opening of this RV, this massive RV that's driving down the road and pulls up in front of Mary's house. And it's Angie K. And it's like, holy shit, Angie K's driving this massive RV. First of all, there is no fucking way in hell that I would ever feel comfortable driving an RV. Unless we just needed to go straight down the road and then someone else had to turn it around and bring it back up. I'm not making any turns. I'm not doing a 3-point turn. I'm not parallel parking it. I'm not doing any of those things. So it would be a waste. However, I've never been on an RV or experienced any type of RV experience. So I did kind of for a second be like, well, this one's actually nice. I don't know if I would be good with that many people on that RV. It was pretty tight. But if it was like me and Jeff or something, and maybe 2 other people, yeah, that would be fun because it's like, you know, I could see how that would be like, I don't know, a unique experience. Anyways, so apparently Angie and Mary planned this trip, which, by the way, I will agree, the invite is very confusing because it's like bikinis and then boots. And it's like, well, why? First of all, what kind of boots? Okay, that's important. Are we talking snow boots? Are we talking hiking boots? Are we talking like thigh-high boots? Because you're also saying bring bikinis. So anyways, the ladies are all gathering to go on this trip, and Angie is basically trying to get them all wrangled in one space, tight space, which is always a good idea, right? I mean, we see what happens on Sprinter vans all the time when any of the housewives get on them. There's something about tight spaces when driving that gets people riled up. So all the rest of the ladies outside of Mary and Angie are waiting outside of Beauty Lab. Now, the question is, remember, I brought this up on yesterday's episode. Where was Lisa? Because she was nowhere in sight. And Whitney's the first one to bring this up. And then this is where Meredith goes, oh, she's not coming. And if you know, you know. I mean, I think we kind of should have expected that she wouldn't have been in the first episode, only because when season 6 started to film, there was tons of reports out there that she was delayed in starting to film, or even if she was coming back at all. And a lot of the reports were saying it was due to contract negotiations, but she kind of dispelled that and said it was more to do with just kind of getting balanced about getting back in there again, which could partially be true. I don't believe that the whole entire, because I think it was about 2 weeks, just about, where she was no, but people really did. And also didn't help that in her Instagram bio, she was like, she took like Housewives part out. But when they do that, sometimes I think now they're just doing that to like show like, I'm good with moving on. I don't care. So I do think some of it was contract negotiations. Absolutely. Because again, you have to remember, they're still a steadily growing franchise. So every season, negotiations are going to occur. And I think based on where you sit now, most of them are OGs. So I'm sure the more and more that they are pushed to share comes with some negotiating and negotiation power and things like that. But she did end up coming back. Obviously, she filmed the entire rest of the season. But in this episode, she's not in it. Minus one flashback where we see her on the FaceTime call with Angie. But already, in my blood, in my spirit, I am like, oh boy, I already know where this is going. I already know. And, the first person to ask where Lisa Barlow wasn't really a shocker, because I already knew that, based on last season and the reunion, there's no way in hell that Whitney's going to stop coming for Lisa Barlow. There's no way that Bronwyn's going to let it go, because she was embarrassed. She felt dumb because she put herself out there, and she lied multiple times, but she lied about one thing that got called out. And I feel she's embarrassed. And I think this season she's coming in hot. That's my opinion. I really wanted to give Bronwyn a chance. I'll say that up front, because everyone's first season is not a fair glance at who they may be. And I was kind of, waiting to see how season 2 played out with Bronwyn, because I was like, look, she's learned a little bit. She's watched herself back now. She kind of gets how this works. Let's see what she does. Well, it doesn't take very long, because once these women are on the RV, the question comes up with Heather again. And I'm going to say this now. I have my eyes on Heather. I've had my eyes on Heather for a while, but there's something off about the way she is kind of playing into this Lisa Barlow situation. Okay. I'll say that right now, because when we get into a little bit more in the episode, I'll add more layers to that. But she asks on the bus, okay, what's the tea? Like, why is Lisa not here? And Angie's like, well, it's because she had a work trip. And then we get this flashback of Angie on FaceTime with Lisa. And Lisa's basically like, I do have this work thing. She's basically like, I'm going to be with Ben Affleck and Blake Lively. So it was a work thing of some sort. And for whatever reason, Whitney decided in that moment to make a statement of, oh, like she even works, like she doesn't work. And it's like, well, that's a bitchy thing to start with in terms of like Lisa Barlow, because you, of all people, were on the last seat of that couch, and you're still coming in this season and starting the antics again, trying to come in hot for Lisa. It boggles my mind, because it just doesn't make sense. I will say the red hair, she needs to keep that hue of red. That suits her. She looks amazing. I will say that. Whitney, you looked amazing, especially in the interview when it's that reddish color that she has, and she's wearing that teal dress. Oh my God, it's such a pop on screen. It looks amazing. The hair color is phenomenal. I think she did go back to blonde though. The red was popping. I will say that. I'll give her that. But at any rate, Brittany, who's back, who I do believe is going to annoy the living shit out of all of us. But she chimes in, and seemingly the only one that stands up and tries to defend Lisa in this moment when Whitney makes that comment, because then Brittany says to Whitney that, I just read that your business is like tanking. And this is in reference to that alleged MLM business thing that she was being called out for. So I guess that kind of went under or dissolved or it failed in Whitney's words. So that already was like, I applaud Brittany for that because it did, two things. We know Brittany's a theater kid and she's thirsty for attention, so she's going to jump in whenever she can. But I also think that she is calling Whitney out because Whitney's being hypocritical here. You have a lot of shit going wrong in your life, and you're sitting here worried about whether or not the real reason Lisa came on this trip was because of work or not. It's like, well, what are you doing now for a living? You blew your whole family's life savings on this business that's now failed. So then Whitney's response to Brittany is, well, what do you do for a living? Suck dick? So already, like, I think we're in the first 10, 12 minutes of the episode, and this is how we've kicked things off. We finally get to this campsite or whatever, this RV campsite. It looks like shit. I'm not going to lie. I think the area in which they were kind of hanging out was nice. But when they first pulled in, I was like, this is really not the vibe. Like, I would be pissed, actually, if I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe not pissed. I would have been like really let down. Not from like a bratty way of like thinking like I need all these things, but like just the landscape. Like, I don't want to be in a shitty looking landscape. I don't mind the glamping. I don't think I would ever be good with camping for real, but glamping I would do, RV I would do, whatever. But the outside area needs to look like aesthetically nice to some degree. But anyways, so they get there, they're settling in, and we start having this conversation where, again, it's the Lisa Barlow episode. They should have titled it Lisa Barlow because that's all that was discussed. And then we're going in talking about Bronwyn coming in hot with all these lawsuits, but Whitney teed it off. She said, I have been reading a lot of things and not good, talking about these lawsuits, which are civil, which most have now been, if not all of them, have been dismissed. Civil, not the same as criminal, not the same. And to be fair, and I think she just said this on a podcast episode recently, Lisa Barlow, she was talking about the upcoming season, and she made a very good, valid point. People who own multiple businesses that grow and scale and get to certain aspects of that business, lawsuits are going to come with, it's part of the territory. It's like when celebrities are like, oh, I'm not going to get caught out by paparazzi. Yeah, you will. That comes with the territory. So does hate, people's negative comments towards you. So I can sue anyone. I can allege anything I want and go file a lawsuit right now. I don't have to have any merit. So it's really interesting to me that this is what Bronwyn and Whitney are so super concerned about. Now with Angie, I think Angie is just being like, combative in spirit against Lisa because I think she's still really hurt about the things that Lisa said about her husband and all that stuff. And I'll say one thing. It's not an excuse, but us Greek people, we can sometimes say we've moved on from stuff. There's a small part of us that still hasn't. And so we will always try to take our dig back whenever we can. It's not healthy. I've worked through a lot of that behavior in therapy myself because it is a waste of energy. But this is a reality show, so I totally get why she's being this way. However, do I like my sisters in Housewives, Angie and Lisa, to be at odds with each other? Absolutely not. I adore both of them equally. Okay. And I will always remain neutral in my coverage. I'm not picking sides. But if I see something, I will say something. But the rest of the women, for the most part, they had Lisa Barlow in their mouths the entire episode. And it was a supersized episode, guys. Okay. And yes, we finally get to this campfire site where Whitney, is having a vulnerable moment, and she claps back at Brittany and tells the ladies, yes, my business failed. It's been very hard for me. And do I think that that's easy to say? No. But you know what? If you're expecting other people to show up and be honest about stuff, Whitney, then you've got to come to the carpet with what's really going on. And so I'm glad that she did. I really am, because, it is what it is, man. You got businesses, you try stuff. The point is, you don't give up. That's what I've learned. And I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a business owner and my partner's a business owner. We both own multiple businesses together collectively. So I get it from that lens. I relate to that. No one wants to fail. No one wants their business to fail. The point is, you guys are still utilizing one person to go after. And then you guys clap and make a big spectacle out of it and then wonder why Lisa doesn't share. Why would she share with you guys when you guys repeatedly, season after season after season, have come after her for why? Because you simply just think that she's phony and making all of this stuff up, like as if she doesn't really own a tequila brand or multiple other businesses, or that she doesn't have that lounge in Park City, or that she doesn't have pop-up events all the time, or that she doesn't go do Sundance and doesn't have a marketing firm, that all of these things can be validated. We're still doing really? Does she really do that? Like, I mean, come on, it's getting old. Okay? It's getting old. We've got to move on. There's got to be something else going on. Bronwyn, what's going on in your neck of the woods, Miss Germaphobe? But I have dog shit all over my house. I didn't want to do this, Bronwyn. I said I wanted to go into season 2 fresh with you. I wanted to give you another chance. I didn't want to hold season 1 against you. But you're sitting here shit talking Lisa Barlow. Meanwhile, you didn't even buy that $4 million fucking necklace. You were really just mad that you were called out for it. And now you want to come in here and shit all over Lisa Barlow over these civil lawsuits that really don't mean a goddamn thing. Meanwhile, there's been things that have been coming out about you in your past. So I wonder, are we going to dig into that? Will we be digging into those things? I hope so. You came in so hot and heavy for her. But I know it's just out of pure embarrassment. You were embarrassed. And I get it. And I'm glad she owned up to the fact that she lied. But I don't believe that that's the reason why she did. I don't think she's in that, the Monica, I got pressured into buying a Louis Vuitton bag with money I don't have. No, that's not what happened. You were never going to buy a necklace for $4 million because real people with real money like that don't go spend it frivolously like that. So I never believed that you were buying the necklace. And whether or not you did or didn't, the fact that you're hinging all of this around a necklace that you didn't intend on buying and that you're now mad that, or were mad at the jeweler for exposing that to Lisa. Listen, people can't help who people go to, man. Everyone's going to everyone if they have information about someone that's on one of these shows. So, look, I could go on and on about the hypocrisy already with this whole thing. But what's interesting, though, is Heather's dynamic in this whole situation when Lisa's being talked about is, and I'm seeing it in the comments, you guys are like, oh, she's gagging for Lisa and Lisa doesn't give two shits about her. I don't think it's that. I think there's something going on here. I don't believe Heather didn't know anything about the lawsuits because they have been written about. Page 6 has written about them. Salt Lake City Tribune has written about it, which was mentioned on the show. So I know Heather's heard of it. I know that she's heard of it. And what she was doing in that moment was playing dumb because she knew she'd get people more riled up and talking more. But who seemed to be pretty quiet was Meredith Marks. So that was interesting to me. I'm not saying she did anything wrong, but she surely didn't jump in there and defend a little, all too much. She kind of let it play out. So who knows what was going on in everyone's mind. In my opinion, I feel like a lot of this was launched out of maybe some resentment that she hadn't finalized her contract or sealed the deal, if you will, like they did. And so maybe they felt like she feels like she's better than everyone and she barely shares anything. So meanwhile, she has all these lawsuits. Like, who the fuck do you think you are, Lisa Barlow? That's kind of the energy that I was getting from the moment, which the entire episode was a Lisa Barlow moment. She was only on it for like 10 seconds. Check, please. But then we find out also, which I'm like unclear as to why we still hate each other, but Heather apparently still can't stand Bronwyn. And I'm not knocking her for it, but Bronwyn and her didn't seem to have all too much of that like kind of conflict in my mind where I was like, I thought you guys left the reunion pretty neutral. Like you were ready to kind of take the step forward, but apparently not. We got Mary back. Mary is back. She is so fucking funny, you guys. This fishing moment where she's like talking about reviving a fish, hysterical, but I believe her. I do believe you probably could revive a fish if you wanted to. I'm sure there's a way. There's always a way to do anything. But yeah, it was totally a Lisa Barlow, like, we're going to come hard for her. And it'll be interesting to see when she does re-enter the group how things kind of go, because that was a lot of talking. And I do hope that Angie does have a conversation with Lisa and tells her that she was a part of that conversation and what was talked about. Because I mean, we got to keep everything up front if we don't want miscommunications, because we know we're going to play certain things back when the episodes air, which is now. And it'll be interesting to see what plays off of what people are seeing, because there was already stuff happening as they filmed, obviously, but now we know how it goes. And Salt Lake City loves to have, an ex-Twitter war back and forth. So, and I'm sure once I pop off this episode recording, I'll go on X and see a bunch that have populated. But, the campfire was a disaster, guys. I'm sorry, Angie, what happened, babe? You didn't bring any of the stuff. There was just there was veggie burgers, buns, wheat bread, which I'm sorry, you guys, like wheat bread, gross. Hot dogs, but nothing else really. And so Mary just resorted to eating bagels, which would have been me, because I would have I probably would have ate the hot dogs, because like those are easy to make. Like you can just cook them until they're like basically charred and then just shove it into like bread, which is what I saw a couple of the ladies doing. But during this fire, again, we're getting some realizations here as to like what we're really going to see in this group. And it's a lot of dynamics are going to shift, I feel like. And I don't think it's all going to be around Lisa Barlow. I do think that there's going to be a lot more that wasn't in the trailer, like they always do. And the buildup is just going to be crazy intense. I did see Whitney on some podcasts or interview she was doing, and she said something does happen coincidentally again in this season's finale that is mind-blowing, and she said has never been done in Housewives, or it's never happened on Housewives. So that's interesting. That piqued my interest. So we'll see what happens. But Brittany, my love, she was inserting herself wherever she could. Also, I forgot to mention earlier in the episode, speaking of Brittany had one of her I have an announcement bits where she announced that her and Osmond Reject got engaged, and 2 weeks later they were unengaged because nobody's kids was down for that. Respectfully, like, you guys are a fucking shit show. If I were your kids, I would absolutely be pissed off that you guys are doing this. I mean, it's probably already embarrassing that they parade around and then break up and then he's with other women, because Whitney had to bring up the fact that she sees him at the gym all the time, but he's not on any workout machines. He's having lunch with dates that he introduces Whitney to, which is wild, because I believe that. And I believe Brittany is wild for still being with this man. Absolutely diabolical. Fantastic premiere episode, though. Fucking-tastic. 10 out of 10 all the way across the board. These women bring it. They know what the assignment is, and they bring it every single time. So I am so here. I'm sat for the ride. Can't wait to recap it with you guys. Let me know, though, what your thoughts were. I hope you guys watched live. I can't wait to see what the numbers are. Hopefully they're good. Let me know your thoughts, as always. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe to this channel. And if you're listening to this podcast on audio, wherever you're listening, please give me a 5-star rating. It greatly helps the podcast, and I appreciate it. And it's free. Shop my merch, all my merch. You can go to GeorgioTakanakis.com/shop. Get yourself something nice. And what else is going on before I leave you? I don't think there's anything else. For now, at least. I may pop back on later. You never know. I'm recording this a lot earlier than I normally do, so we know news likes to populate after 2 p.m. But I guess I'll put a pin on it there. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday. And until the next episode, guys, I will talk to you on the next one. Bye.
We need to talk about this. Talk about this.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast.
We need to talk about this.